Hello and welcome in, everybody. I am Lance Cecil, and here with me we have got Jollster and Crashy, and I'm still super proud of myself for being able to do the mirrors and the thumbs for the right person. Jollster, will you give yourself a quick Jollster, will you give yourself a quick introduction, please?
Oh yeah, I'm Jollster23. I'm the head TO for PCC, and I'm just here to make sure Lance behaves himself this time.
And everybody knows Crashy, but I'm going to give him another platform to talk about himself for a couple of seconds. You want to say hi, Crashy?
Yeah, what's up, guys? It's me, Crashy, the jungle dude, the guy who complains about AFKs, but happy to be here. One of my favorite things about Pred, definitely the PCC. I put on a great show, and there's some great teams, great players, so always happy to be a part. Thanks for inviting.
Hey, we appreciate you being here today, Crashy. We are going to try to keep this semi-simple for you today. We know that some of the podcasts get a little bit long-winded. Some of them last quite a bit of time. We've got just a couple of general things we're going to go over for you today, kind of preview the event that happens next Saturday, starting at 11 a.m. here on this Twitch, the only place you can find it currently. So make sure you slap that follow button / that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter. Keep up to date with all of it. I guess if you do miss it, you can also subscribe to our YouTube if you wanted to, as we do post the VODs there when we're done with them. But with no further ado, we are going to get into ideas of the group stage. We're going to talk about the teams that qualified quick. We're going to do just a little bit of a rundown of those matches, what we expect to see, go over some hero stats, and then we're going to have 2 interviews with 2 real special players for you as well today. So we're just going to start off by talking about like the general stages of the groups and how we think it went. Jollster, what were your like first impressions of the group stage?
I think it ran pretty well. I had a few teams that couldn't make it. I had to make some adjustments there, but I think a lot of the teams were pretty competitive, and we had a couple of surprises. Teams like Double Vision and a few others being able to step up in there and seeing even worse timing, and Dirty Lake finally play Red Dojo. Nice surprise. So I'll be happy to go over and like preview these teams going into their matchups.
Perfect. And then Crashy, do you know any of the like standout players that came out of this? Anybody that really overperformed or did super well during the group stage that you'd like to highlight?
I mean, I think seeing how Red Dojo did was pretty like awesome in general. So not necessarily a standout player, but I think Red Dojo kind of surpassed my expectations. I think the other thing too for me is like the name has kind of stuck around, but the roster has shifted every now and then. So like every time I hear Red Dojo, I'm always like, okay, I gotta like catch up, right? I gotta catch up a little bit on who's actually on the team. But yeah, they performed really, really well. So I would say that they kind of just naturally like excelled and went past my expectations.
Right. The other team for me that didn't surprise me, I would say, but like performed exactly where I expected them to be at was even worse timing. I'll be real with you. They are our second seed going into our main event. I would be very surprised to see this team not at the very minimum make finals, even though they do have an absolute gauntlet to run through here, as we can see the bracket now. So we're just going to go through it really quick. Our first match is going to be Rogue versus Double Vision there. That is our defending finalist up against Double Vision, who is our 8th seed qualifier. After that, we're going to have Dirty Lick and the boys versus my NA West Pride Orca Pod. Even worse timing will take on No Communication. And the matchup that we're actually going to show you is Red Dojo versus Professors on Saturday. That will be the first quarterfinal that everybody's going to get to see. I think that's probably one of the most hyped matchups out of this entire thing. But we'll get into more specific details about that a little bit later. We do want to talk take a little bit of time to talk about some of the like general stats and highlighted champions that we saw from the group phase. I'm going to throw that to Jollster as he's our stat head. He's going to go over a couple of these champions with you. We'll have Crashy chime in with a little bit of like analytical information about them as well. But if we could get that first one up, it would be perfect for the people. Also, before we get into it, big shout out to Choice Plays and Hot Sauce for putting these together for us. These look sick.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic. And with Seb being here, I mean, obviously this is going to be a featured hero. Sevrog's been looking pretty good. Win rate can be a little bit deceiving for him, but I mean, obviously he's getting picked at a high rate, getting banned at a high rate. I think him and Decker received a majority of the bans on group play, so it definitely shows like how much value both of those heroes actually have for these teams right now.
I'm actually really glad we got the Jungle Boy in here with us, because Sevrog got some changes that kind of makes him viable in the jungle now. I know Crash, you put it how it is Sevrog an S tier jungle player now? Not to spoil that or anything, but is he Crashy?
I think he can be, right. Like, it's the character himself is S tier and performing that well, that if you have a draft that permits you to not need Sevarog in the off lane, then you can absolutely run it jungle. So that's definitely something to consider, because there just could be, misplays in draft, or just a scenario where, hey, maybe the right mage off lane, or, the right kind of an off lane allows you to early flex pick the Sev, assuming he doesn't get banned, because that's the thing, right? We're looking at this, and Sev only played through 8 games, had a 50% win rate, but we all know that this is like probably the strongest hero in the game right now. So yeah, definitely a really strong flex pick, where in the past I would not feel so comfortable doing that. That was always kind of the steal of the game, right? It was a very strong flex pick, maybe the Richters of the game, very strong flex pick, but that's Sevarog, and Sevarog not only is a strong flex pick, it's just, like I said, the strongest hero in the game probably. So
Right.
really got to keep our eyes on the Sevarog in the draft.
And it feels like he's taken about 6 nerfs in a row, and he's still at the top of the roster and the tier list and stuff. So very surprising to see. Hopefully, a little bit of adjustments do get him back into a spot where he is, balanced and comfortable. But we will have to see how that goes with Sevarog. But definitely keep your eyes out for this. The next champion we want to show you, I believe, is Rampage. Rampage has had a lot of screen time. Jollster, if you want to go over these stats for us.
Oh yeah, I mean, Rampage once again received a pretty good amount of bans throughout it, but he was mostly, a stat that you don't see up there. He was our highest first pick. He was our highest top 3 pick. Rampage banned out because of
There he
Decker.
is.
Oh, there he is. Okay.
Banned out. Oh,
We had some
Little
latency
lag
issues for you for a second there, but I believe you were just talking about, he's like our most common first pick. He's our most common first rotation. So he's either going to get picked up by that team that's picking first, or in the 2 picks that comes on the first rotation of the team that picks second. Just a menace. That long range boulder, other than Decker, he's really the only person that has that super long range engage within him. Crushy, I know for a while you were claiming to be the best Rampage in North America. What sets Rampage apart from the other junglers right now in the game?
I think the biggest thing about Rampage is the fact that he's still a scaling character while having really good early to mid game. So not the best scaling character. You want to look over at Sevarog for that, and just know how ridiculous he gets in late game. But Rampage doesn't really fall off. He's pretty consistent throughout the entire course of the game, but he also has really good ganks. So you kind of compare the current version of Chimera, where Chimera's pretty strong right now. I think is actually in a pretty decent spot, but Chimera has 0 early game presence. You pretty much are hyper farming. You're trying to get yourself to a point where you feel like you can really make some impact. And Rampage just kind of has a really linear curve of scaling, getting stronger, but still being effective. So yeah, Rampage, I expect to see a little bit more of this going forward as well, where it's if Sev's not an option and you can't get that as a potential jungler, then a Rampage might still shine pre-nerfs, because we do have some nerfs coming up, but we're not playing on that patch just yet. So yeah, we'll see how those affect him going forward in the future, but I still expect to see a good bit of Rampage if the teams are feeling it.
There's really never been a meta or a time within the 7 months that this game has existed, and we've been doing competitive predecessor, that we haven't seen Rampage be a priority pick throughout it. So definitely expect to see the Frog Lizard more times. Okay, so really quick, before we do move on, I got to get this out of the way just for a little bit of fun here. I hear people talking about what species or what Rampage is all of the time. We talked about this a little bit last night. I'm a really big Magic the Gathering fan. He looks so much like the 3/3 green frog lizard token. It's hard to believe. One of these days, I actually, when this is done, I'm gonna tweet a picture of it, because how much he looks like Rampage is insane. They could be cousins, first cousins even. But what species do you think Rampage is, Jollster? Well, Crashy says he doesn't know, so I'm asking Jollster.
I mean, we've always called him the big fishy boy, but he is more frog-like than anything. Really can't make an adjustment there. I don't know. Maybe there's something in the lore when they start, actually putting that out more often that we can figure out. But
I don't know. When I play Rampage, he's a giant rock. So I don't know.
Giant rock.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So we will get on to our mid lane hero that we are trying to highlight here then, and that will be Morigesh. Jollster, take away with the numbers.
Oh yeah, I mean, you can see it right there. This was her first event for the PCC, and she shined. A 71.43% win rate. only with 7 games, but still that's really solid. Picked 28.5% of the time, approximately, and a 5% ban rate. I mean, Morga's just she got a little bit of a buff there. So now that she has a chance to really shine and teams are starting to utilize her a little bit more, I'm curious to see what it looks like going forward. I mean, that patch right before it might change a few things, but she's looking pretty good.
I definitely agree with that. I got a little bit of foot in mouth syndrome because as we were leading into this, we were talking with Geronimo Jack, who was hosting our event, and I was just saying like, I just don't think you see Morigesh. I don't think she's competitively viable. She doesn't have a team fight ult. She doesn't have this. She doesn't have that. Just proving that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So I'm gonna let somebody who does explain it. Crashy, why is Morigesh competitively viable?
I think this character is super interesting in that she's kind of like hard countered by getting to her, and like once someone's just like stuck on her, she's pretty much done for. You get a melee assassin or a bruiser or a tank in the back line and they're on top of her, she can't really do a whole lot. But she's incredibly bursty but has good poke, so it's like you just have to play off that Q poke. And I think that her laning presence is like pretty solid. Like I think that was always my biggest concern when I first looked at her kit, was that she was going to be another like early game Countess, and it doesn't really feel that way. So she's like safe in that regard. She has like a really decent laning phase, or pretty good laning phase, and then towards the late game she just kind of pokes, and her Q it's kind of ridiculous. Like it just does a lot of damage, and then whenever she needs to, she just like picks that target and just bursts them down. So I think she's really solid. I think that she is deceptively bursty, and until it's time to like full throw your kit at someone, you can kind of just poke and prod at them, and be a little annoying and wiggle around.
I think another thing with her is as long as we have tanks that are like prevalent in the meta, like the first two heroes that we highlighted are both tanks with Sevarog and Rampage, right? She does percentage health damage, and it's on her passive. She doesn't even have to do anything too special to get that. She builds a Megacosm on top of that, and she's just doing so much percentage health damage, where obviously the more health you have, the more damage it does to you. So I think that we're going to see her in favor as long as tanks are around too, or like a heavy dosage of tanks.
Yeah. I mean, that's actually like one of the best parts of it. Is she's not like your traditional mid laner either. You're not gonna see the same kind of like lane wins early on. But I mean, you give her time, she's really nasty going into that mid and late game. So it's fantastic to see teams start to utilize her, and the more she gets played, the more we're gonna be able to see it.
Definitely. So we will move on to our next champion in our ADC role, and that will be Kira today. Kira's got a 68.75% win rate within our groups. She was picked in 81.25% of our games, not banned a single time. And there were 20 games in total during our group phase event. Kira was played in 16 of those games, which is just absurd.
Yeah, that's something you're gonna see with ADCs. You're gonna see a 0% ban rate. That's just not a lot of value placed on that right now. Kira did a lot better than I thought she would. She's actually starting to shine to be more valued than Drongo right now. So I'm curious to see like what players think about that, like why that's starting to shift a little bit for ADCs. But I mean, she's doing really great, much better than Sparrow, who's yet to win a game in PCC play.
Feels bad, Sparrow.
Hey, don't come at Sparrow like that. She'll have her day in the sun. They'll rework her and make her super OP for like 2 weeks and then take all of it away from her. But hopefully during that 2 weeks we have an event so that Sparrow can shine, or they'll finally buff phase to a spot where you have to run both of them together. But we will see about that. Do you have any other input for us about Kira here before we move on to our supports, Crashy? Sorry to all you big ADC fans out there. We just none of the three of us are ADC guys. We just don't have a lot of input about this character.
It's so funny when it comes. So I don't have a thought on her specifically, but when it comes to ADCs, in my mind, I feel like whoever is the perceptionally best ADC just cycles through whoever's doing good with the ADC that they like to play. So like you'll see like. I don't know. I think Pablo one time like popped off on Revenant. It's like, oh, Revenant's the best ADC, and then like Murdoch just got a bunch of changes, and I've seen people pop off on Murdoch, and I'm like, oh, Murdoch is the best ADC. And so I never really know who the best ADC is. I think that they're always really close in actual viability, except for Sparrow. She always is the one that like naturally like looks perceptionally weaker or is perceptionally weaker. But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't surprise me. I think I don't know. ADCs are good, and people are going to pick them for whatever reason they pick them, and I have no reason why. I have no understanding or reasoning why.
We are seeing a little bit in the chat that she's being picked because she's purple and she matches the PCC color scheme and logo, which does make sense to me why Omeda would buff her and make her strong with her being purple. So we'll probably just chalk it up to her being the purple character, always being in that PCC skin already. But we'll have to move on to the support though, because that's all I got to say about Kira.
Yeah, pretty much.
So Decker's somebody near and dear to my heart. I think you can nerf Decker as hard as you want until you change her kit. She is always going to be viable because she literally does everything you want somebody to do, minus the healing, which you can build if you're feeling really spicy. In our groups, actually, Jollster, why don't you go over the stats?
Oh yeah. I mean, in the group play, she had the highest win rate out of any of the heroes at 72.73%. Really good pick rate, and like I said, high ban rate, 35%. I mean, her 7 Rampage, you saw it looking at the stats. They were just banned a lot or picked a lot. And Decker's really showing that she's like a top tier support. And, you know, having been an old Paragon player, I actually like the changes to her kit. I think that's what's made her so strong here in Predecessor as compared to Paragon. And, man, and she's just tough to deal with. There's really not much you can do with her.
Yeah, played in over half of the games in our main event. They're at 11. Overall, through the entirety of the PCC, since we've started keeping track of stats and everything back in February, Decker has been in over half the games at 53%, which just says a lot about where she's at as a character. Maybe it says a little bit about the like support pool and what it's about. But you got to remember also, we had one event where Narbash was in his like really overtuned space where he would just like heal you to full health from level 2 onward the rest of the game, and he was basically just a walking fountain. Decker was still getting picked over Narbash during that time a little bit, or at least picked into it every single time it was picked. So Decker's been sitting up here as the queen of the ADCs, or you know, like the runner up to being on the throne, to the princess, or whatever however the hell a monarchy works. We'll have to get TJ DJ in here to explain that one to me one of these days. But you know, Decker's just a ridiculously strong champion, and I think that she's always going to be. I would expect to see a lot more of Decker this coming Saturday as well. But that is all we're going to go over for champions today. The next thing that we are going to do, which I'm sure all of you guys are more excited about, is we're going to start getting into the actual matchups. We're going to start talking about what you can expect to see from our quarterfinals in 1 week. And we're going to start by highlighting our top seeded team in Team Rogue, taking on our lowest seed in Double Vision. Crashy, is there anything you can tell me about Team Rogue? You did sub in for these guys, not in our last group stage, but the one before that, you played with most of these guys. What are they like as a unit?
I think that, I mean, at least with that iteration of the team, it was a team, and I mean, it still carries kind of some of the same weight. It's a team that has like crazy potential to be one of the like top 3 teams, I think, consistently, and they just had to like continue to walk that walk and put in the work to get there. I can't really speak to how in form they are now. I think that they're going to perform well. I expect them to probably win their first match. I think BNB and the boys on Double Vision are a little younger. They're kind of coming in as more as like a friend group. I had talked to BNB about his team a little bit, and he was like, yeah, you know, I just found some guys that I really like to play with. I think that's always a great place to start. And obviously they've, you know, kind of proven themselves over some other teams. And yeah, I think it'll be a good one. But I think, yeah, Rogue is just a team that is kind of putting in the work even still to be like the best in the scene. So I don't know if they're going to crown themselves that title, but they are in the first seed for now, you know, because Royalty dropped out of the event, and we'll see how they do.
Yeah, they do have a little bit of roster changes as well. Just worth highlighting, Wangle and Blue Jay have replaced Appy and Nitro. So, you know, we'll have to see how that makes a difference. I'm a big Wangle fan, but I'm also a really big believer that you don't replace Appy with anybody other than like maybe Seismic, maybe Empty. But like I'll take Appy on my team 100 games out of 100 if I can get him. So it'll be interesting to see how they adjust to having new junglers, new mid laners. It is a big adjustment. They still do have my guy Tekken Kid though. I'm a firm believer Tekken Kid is like the best offlaner in the game right now. That man just doesn't lose matchups. Jollster, is there anything you can tell me about Double Vision? And I know that you're a big believer in these guys. You've always like thought they were going to get through groups. You've always known they had the potential of making it into our main event. Tell me about why you believe in these guys.
I believe in these guys because in group play, I told them they wouldn't make it out of group play. They definitely proved me wrong and let me know when I got back into the voice chat when they made it out. This is a team that like they surprised me a lot. They didn't have the most recognizable roster, a roster you look at and it really pops off the page. But what they did do is they just found ways to win. Like the stats aren't like super crazy when you look at it compared to other players. This is just a team that no matter how many times they get hit down, they come right back up. They find a way to win. And that's something to tell, especially coming into this matchup. Rogue didn't play in group play, you know, so we haven't seen them yet with Wingle and Blue Jay in there. You know, how much of a change does that make? Does that change some of their strategy? You know, and like, can they handle a longer game with the TTK changes? So let's, you know, I think with Double Vision, it'll be, they have an opportunity to really pull this off. I don't know if Rogue is completely unbeatable, and yeah, it could be Double Vision in semifinals. You don't know.
Perfect. So we're going to do this the spicy way because we are going to bring somebody from Double Vision on for an interview. But before we do that, we're doing predictions. So I'll kick it off as I am the man in the center. I will take Rogue in 2 games. Crashy, what do you think?
I think it'll be a Rogue win. It's best of 3, right?
It is best of 3.
Okay, I think it's going to be a Rogue win 2-1.
Perfect. And Jollster?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I'm calling it right now. I think Rogue Carly comes out, surprises them a little bit because they haven't played. So they could probably win game 1, but I'm calling the reverse sweep. I feel it for Double Vision. I'm going to send Lance down to their voice chat so that they can tell him that he was wrong this time around when they make it in the semifinals.
They're going to be super ready for that. But with no further ado, we are going to bring in our first guest of the day. We've got the wonderful Ranting Gamer joining us from a tiny town in the middle of nowhere in Ohio. Welcome in, Ranty. It is super nice to have you today. We appreciate you giving up some of your Saturday to come in with us. We're going to get right off to it, though. Will you want to just give yourself a quick little introduction and tell us a little bit about yourself and your gaming experience? That is great. So we are gonna. Oh, hey, there he is in all of his glory. Face cam coming through and everything. So here is what Ranting Gamer looks like for all of you guys that were out there listening to the voice. You can put a face to it. We do have a couple of questions that we want to ask your Ranting, and I'm just gonna go ahead and kick it off for us. But coming into the tournament as the lowest seed, you have to take on Team Rogue, who was obviously in our last finals. They beat Professors to get there. What about Double Vision makes you believe you've got the ability to pull that upset?
I think it's just how well we really work together in team fights and all that. I think we do really well with communicating on who to go for and everything. We talk about what we should build beforehand. So I think if we do what we usually do and play and communicate consistently, I think we can take them out and go to semifinals.
Oh, all right. Well, Ranting, this is Jollster here. So I mentioned it earlier. Y'all had lots of ups and downs in group play. Like, how is it that as a team y'all mesh well enough to where those kind of losses, the doubt that you receive, how do y'all really handle that as a team? Is it just kind of brushed off, or do y'all just use that as a chip on your shoulder?
We like to brush it off, and then we'll look back and see what we did to cause our losses and all that, and not just, blame someone for it. So we would go back and look at it and see what happened and just improve from there and not let it affect us. And obviously after that game, you joining, telling us we were not going to make it out of groups and all that kind of made us really want to get out. And we did that, and then we get a seed. So we proved you wrong. So that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So it is worth noting, we have never had a repeat champion. We're definitely not going to do it this time. But at some point, our new champion has taken out our highest seed, which you guys get the first crack at that, which is a little exciting for you guys. If you did not know, you've got a chance to kind of continue a pattern here. I heard you mention before that you try not to, get down on your teammates and not like focus on who threw or like why you lost or anything like this. But if you had a teammate who was going to throw the game for you, which one would it be?
I think I'd have to say Eden. I'd have to say Eden on that one.
Sorry, Eden. I really wanted to stir the pot a little bit today, and I can't ask that type of question to our next guest.
Jeez.
Yeah, if I had to, it'd have to be Eden.
Nice.
Everybody.
So I had talked to B&B recently, and he had told me that y'all's team environment is much more like high vibes and like a group of friends that like enjoy playing together. How would you say that environment feels different from, say, more of a like strictly business team where you kind of like jump in, do scrims, and then y'all kind of like part and go separate ways?
Well, it's with our team, we try to like hang out with each other and just have that type of vibe with each other. So we know like we just joke whenever we play, but we'll take it seriously when it comes to scrims and tourneys and all that. So it's one of those things of we're not only playing Pred together, we're playing other stuff together.
That's cool. I envy that.
Yeah, I feel like that's the type of thing that we don't get from a lot of our teams. A lot of rosters have had a lot of turnover, a lot of changes from one person to the next. Here we see a little bit of the highlights. Here are you on this. But I think that the fact that you guys are all friends and you all get along can't be understated because of the fact that this is a 5-person game, right? So there may be some teams with like individually better players, like just somebody that stands out really high, somebody like Survivor or somebody like Pablo Wazowski, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that they've got the chemistry that they need with the other people around them in order to be able to push themselves past that. So I do think that the like friendship anime storyline that you guys are working through may be a massive advantage. I've seen it have a lot of people defeat some pretty big villains in the past, may be able to work for you guys as well.
Thanks.
I do believe that is the end of our time for you, unless either of Jollster or Crashy has one more question they'd like to ask Ranting Quick before he gets out of here for the day.
Thoughts on Sev Jungle? I got asked the question. I'm curious if that's something y'all are interested in running.
As of right now, we haven't really tried running it in scrims. We tried it in pubs. We know it's pretty good, but we try different stuff in scrims just to see how it feels for each player. So,
okay, cool.
Oh, I actually have one more for you, quick, Ranting. So you did make the decision to switch from jungle to ADC. First of all, how long ago did you make that switch, and what was your reasoning behind it?
So I switched from jungle to ADC about start of like first week of May. And it was really just one of those things of I stopped really enjoying the jungle. I wasn't having fun with it anymore. It was one of those things of you go into a match and then people are just, you don't gank their lane and then they just start feeding. They blame you for it. It was one of those like mental things. I wanted to switch. I was trying other stuff. I was trying mid. I was trying ADC. And then Bears came to me with the idea of this team. And I said, like, if we do this team, I'll roll swap for the ADC. It does not bother me at all. So we went and made the team. I switched, and then it was like a learning process from there of playing ADC and getting better at it.
Good team player. Jollster, you got anything else for Ranting before we let him skedaddle and enjoy his Saturday?
Pretty good. Good luck with the first match there next weekend. Be curious to see what Double Vision does, and can't wait for Lance to be wrong once again.
Ranting, before you go, do you have anything that you want to plug? Anything that you want to like get out there? Do you make any content? You got like a Twitter? You got anything that you want people to know about before you leave? Have 15 seconds to say whatever you want.
No, I don't really do content right now, so I'm fine.
Cool. Then I'll say it for him. Go follow Crashy on socials.
Okay.
Thanks for coming through today, Ranting. We look forward to seeing you in a week, and good luck to you.
Thanks.
That is going to move us on to the next matchup that we are going to talk about, which is our 4 versus our 5 seed, which is Dirty Lake and the boys versus Orca's Pod. So this is something that we did get the opportunity to show a preview game for, as they did end up facing each other to see who was going to be our 4th seed and who was going to be our 5th seed. Dirty Lake and the boys did take that, and they did become our 4th seed. This is going to give Orcapod a spot and a chance for some revenge. But if you do not know, Dirty Lake and the boys, they are an incredibly stacked team. If I had to pick a team that I knew was making the finals no matter what, based off of like sides of the bracket and stuff, I would go Dirty Lake and the boys by a mile. I've got a little bit of belief that either Red Dojos or Professors might be able to take the even worse timing. I do not think there's somebody on this side of the bracket that can hang with Dirty Lake and the boys, which is unfortunate for me because I'm a big Orcapod fan. That is our representative NA West team. Everybody within that organization is from NA West, which I personally love. Sucks for them to be playing on that ping. But what else can you tell us about this matchup, quick, Jollster?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit to tell about you. I figured that we'll let the stats do the talking as well. I mean, we talked about Appy Picker before, how good he is in mid, and like there's very few other mids that I would take along with that. You know, probably Seismic or Soul Reaper, like one of those. Really good average coming out of group play: 8.8 kills to 2 deaths, 4.8 assists, 8.5 CS per minute, and 483.7 gold per minute. And that was average throughout every game that they played. It really, really good gameplay out of that, and that's just only part of the equation. You still have Lakeinator, you still have Toasty, you still have Grady in the jungle, and you know Grady's going to have some fun, but it's not going to be easy for him going against Orcapod with Drink being there. Also did really well. The jungle had 9.5 assists average throughout it, so he's a jungler that really likes to help his team get forward. So it'll be really good to see. I think we're going to see a nice little matchup between Orcapod and Dirty Lake and the boys on that side of the map.
So this is something that I love having somebody like Crashy around for, because during the first match that we highlighted, we talked about how Crashy filled in with Pinzo and with Haru and the boys in our last group stage. Crashy also won one of our PCC events. If you do not remember, the way distant future of February, and his ADC during that time was actually Lakeinator. So he's got a little bit of experience with the ADC on this team. Can you tell me what makes Lakeinator so good and sets him apart, Crashy?
It's funny because I feel like this is like a cheesy one, but I just think his mechanics are really good. Like I think he just physically plays the game super well. I think it's pretty funny because if anybody remembers, me and Lake were also on TOS together. Lake subbed in for Rogue whenever I played with Rogue, so I've played with Lake a lot. But me and Lake both know that I don't think me and him know. I think his comment's funny. I don't think me and or anybody, I don't know how many people know that me and Lake, I don't think me and him would either view each other as like a good teammate for each other. We just didn't have that like same synergy, but he just plays the game super well, and like his input in a game is super good. And even though like maybe me and him didn't mesh the best as like teammates, I think whenever he finds those people that he does mesh with, that's where he excels. So, you know, whenever he is on that right team, he probably just becomes the glue to the team, right? Like I think his mechanics are good, and that's definitely where I see his skill level shining through. But who knows? Honestly, whenever he's in that right group of guys, maybe his calls are on point. Maybe his positioning gets higher. I don't know. He maybe just enters that flow state and becomes the high tier Lakeinator that we know. And then he's playing with Pred veterans, right? At minimum, Pred veterans. I don't know everybody's Paragon history, but I mean, he's playing with Appy, phenomenal mid laner. Is Appy still in mid lane? I feel like
Appy's their mid laner.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say phenomenal mid laner. Every time I play with Appy, I feel like I get a free win. So can't go wrong there. Grady in the jungle, dude. It's a good time.
Right, they got Grady the baddie on that team as well, which I think is one of the things that really sets them apart. I'm a big Grady fan. I watch him stream pretty much every time that he is online. I expect Grady to carry them through one of the thing is like with this team specifically, I see 3 or 4 people on this team that I'm like, oh, that guy could just carry them through this, like with no problems. Nitro could just carry them through this. Like I don't want to say that he carried Rogue, but he did a lot to help Rogue with that semifinal match against Professors, right? Lakeinator can just take a game over if you let him get ahead. Appy Picker can absolutely take a game over if you let him get ahead. Grady is insane. Like there's so much to be worried about However, I do want to highlight Drink Drink Drunk from the other thing. This is the first event, our group stage, that we really got to see him, and he played really, really well in a couple of games. There was a particular match. He was Feng Mao in it. He did end up losing it. Just I think that they just didn't scale as well as the other team, and the other team was able to stall and slow them down. I think he was 7-1, 8-1 by the time Drink Drink Drunk had finally been taken down for the second time, and by the time the match kind of started to shift the opposite direction, but he really had those boys on his back. That is going to take us to our. Oh, hold on a second. Actually, it's probably time for some predictions, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
We
So
can go with those.
I think I may have spoiled the beans a little bit when I said earlier that I think that Dirty Lake and the Boys makes finals with no hesitation. So I will just put it below me. Dirty Lake and the Boys, put that awesome Discord logo up there.
Yeah, I think I'll take the next one. I see like an Ader hanging out in the chat, so I'm actually halfway tempted to mess with them a little bit, but you can't go against Dirty Lake and the Boys. They're a really good team. I think Orcapod's a good team as well. They've really surprised me going 2-0 in group play, but Dirty Lake, that's just a good roster. You don't see a weakness anywhere in that roster.
Yeah, and I'm going to follow that up with the same prediction. Dirty Lake and the Boys, I think they're going to take it. I think they're going to sweep it. Like Lance said earlier, they may, be a finals team. We'll see how it all plays out between Double Vision and Rogue going into semifinals. But yeah, expect them to go pretty far in this one.
I completely agree. That's going to take us to our next matchup, which is our 2 seed versus our 7 seed, which will be even worse timing with that cute little hamster wearing a hat versus no communication. So no communication did make our last event. This is the first we're going to see of even worse timing, but if you're a Paragon or a predecessor head or an overprime head, you know the worst timing part of this, or the timing part of this. Bad timing won a couple of predecessor events. Very strong team. A lot of that roster is survived through what is here and what you'll be seeing in this matchup. We've got, Pablo Wazowski, who helped Rogue win our last tournament in there with Vecron as well, who is his standard duo lane partner. Something that is just going to be a sight to behold. I feel bad for Cold having to go into that, as that is a very tough matchup to play into. Cold is an incredibly skilled and strong player, and it's going to be interesting to see how those go against each other. Do you have anything else you can tell us about either of these teams, boys, that you wanna highlight before we get into it?
Even worse timing was, at the time whenever I was playing on TOS, Bad Timing and Professors were kind of starting to make their transition into Predecessor, and it didn't really feel like there was a ton of teams. Everybody was kind of still floating around doing their own thing, and Bad Timing we faced off against, and they destroyed us. So I think all of the experience that they have, I think, the players that they have, they understand macro at a really strong level, and they understand how to play the 3D MOBAs, which is something that took me a good bit of time to actually learn, and I just expect a lot from them. So, when I see those players, I don't really know what form that their team is currently in. It's kind of hard to know exactly how strong they are, but when I see those players, it kind of pulls me back to that event where I think, damn, that experience at the time really showed, and I don't think that's something that you really lose, right? So we'll see how practiced they are, how much scrim time they've put in, how prepared they are for this particular event. But yeah, I have high expectations for them for sure.
Another thing worth highlighting for even worse timing, they do have our guy Ray on here. If you don't know anything about Ray, he's like the pioneer for interesting, cool things within this game. He's also a dev as well. Very, very nice, relaxed person if you've never spoken to Ray. But I gotta let all of you guys know, if any of you guys are Grux fans out there, Ray has got a wonderful clip on his Twitch of him going on in the support role. He went Riftwalkers. He's got Galaxy Greaves, and he's got something else as well. He jumps up into the air, and then he flies forward down Falcon Punch style with his E, and just CCs people forever with Riftwalkers and his rush and stuff. It is a great clip. 10 out of 10. I really recommend going and finding Ray's Twitch after this. Hit the follow button while you're there. Jollster, what can you tell me about NoCo, though, and what they are going to have to do in order to kind of pull this upset? Because it does kind of sound like we're burying them, and I don't want it to make it seem like that, because this is a very strong team, a very capable team of upsetting some people, especially if they can get some early game advantages.
Oh yeah, Noko is definitely a team that they can pull some games off. I mean, this is just a steep hill for them to climb. They definitely got some credit there. You know, I highlighted Creed as like probably one of their key players, because if they're going to do something against even worse timing, they have to do it through that other side of the map, because you're just not gonna. I mean, no disrespect to anybody, but you're not gonna beat that duo with Bekron and Pablo. Like, that's just a really good duo. So you're gonna have to find other ways to do it. And so, you know, Creed does a really good job of helping assist, helping, you know, take up a lot of that damage, and just playing that tank a little bit better out of the solo lane. So for Noko, I could see them really trying to play towards that, forcing even worse timing to back a little bit, because that is a super aggressive team.
For sure they are. So without any further ado, we're going to get right into predictions for these guys as well. I hate to do this to Noko, but I will take even worse timing. Jollster?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of alluded to it already. I mean, this is a really tough team to go against and even worse timing. They're a super aggressive team. Pablo with the sticks, that W is capitalized for a reason. So I'm going to have to go with even worse timing.
Yeah, I got to give it to him too. I mean, it is 2 seed versus 7 seed, so you know it's kind of implied in a sense just based on their performance and how they've done and where they're coming from in this event. So going to give it to even worse timing. I would love to see an upset, right? I think that it'll probably be a pretty dominant one, but Noko has you know, that's what these tournaments are for, right? You practice up, you come, you show up, and then if you perform, you kind of earn that respect. So we'll see what they can do with it. Same thing for Orko, same thing for Double Vision. I think they have these, like you said, these big hills to climb, and we'll see what they can put on a show. So
I agree. So that's going to take us to the last of our quarterfinal matchups, the one that I personally am the most split and excited for. This is going to be Team Red Dojo versus the Professors. Two super familiar names. If you've been paying attention to the professional predecessor scene, you've seen both of these. You have seen how strong Professors is and how good and dominant they have been up until like finals, up until certain matches every single time. There hasn't been a single tournament that Professors hasn't been favored by somebody to win the whole damn thing. But they've got a mountain to climb if they are going to take on Red Dojo. As like Crushy was saying before, they've had a couple different roster variations. They've had some things swapped. I don't want to spoil the beans or anything here, but I do think this is the best roster they have ever had since I was a part of it. But I don't want to put the wagon in front of the horse here. Let's get into like the kind of matchups that we have here. So we do have Nadi and Peck for the dual lane for Red Dojo going up against like the signature lanes for Professors with Crazy Fool and Survivor there. How do you think that matchup goes for these two teams? Either Crashy or Jollster.
Yeah, sure, I'll take it away. I think just from what I've seen, and I've watched a lot of Professors, they were definitely a team to like look towards a bit earlier on in competitive predecessor. I just never see them lose duo lane, and so you know, as time goes on, I think other teams are improving and people can, you know, potentially close the gap on that. But that's really going to be what I pay a lot of attention to in that matchup. I think it's one of the stronger aspects of the Professors, so I think that it's going to be a tough one, and it's also, I mean, it's the carry lane, right? Like you know, whenever you go into a matchup like that, I particularly as a jungle am thinking, you know, hey, I'm going to probably try to camp that lane a little bit. I want to put a lot of pressure on it, and as to not let them naturally take over. And even if my jungle ganks are just keeping that lane even, it's better than, you know, letting Survivor take over. So I'm really looking forward to that, because I think that is a big hurdle potentially. But Red Dojo has a very strong roster overall, and they have a very strong understanding of the game overall. So, you know, if that doesn't, you know, say I'm wrong and then they do win the duo lane, great. But if that is the way that it is between those matchups, then hopefully they just don't let it get out of control, and they can kind of find their win conditions and find their opportunities in other parts of the map.
I definitely agree. And all around the map, there's going to be really good matchups. They're going to either have Bartle or North taking on Guru over there in the off lane. They have Atomic versus Soul Reaper in the mid, which I started with the duo lanes, but that's because I wanted to work my way into this, because I think that this is the quarterfinal matchup where like the lanes that hit are as even as you're going to see. Anybody that's been paying any attention to Predecessor on Twitch, they know who Soul Reaper is. He's on 24/7. He's always out there. He's got 80, 90 340,000 people watching him at any given time. And Soul Reaper is, one of the bigger names in the community, but he's taken on somebody else that we've seen as a constant stay in competitive predecessor with Atomic there. He's going to have to try to figure something out to be able to slow Atomic down, because Atomic is getting better and better and better as days pass. One thing I do want to highlight about this, which may be a little bit of like an inside scoop information, but back in the day of Paragon, Crazy Fool actually coached Atomic and helped him learn different things about the game. So a lot of the reason that Atomic is even decent right now, or not decent, Atomic is cracked right now. One of the reason Atomic is so cracked right now is because he got a couple of those early lessons in the early days from Crazy Fool. May have a little bit of respect for Crazy Fool in that regard because of that. I'm sure that he does. Atomic is a super, super nice guy. The other matchup that we need to talk about through this is going to be the jungle matchup, which is going to be IDOC versus Frankie B. A little bit less of like a well-known name in Frankie B. Bussin'. However, performed very well during the group phase. Everybody knows who IDOC is. IDOC is who he is. He's always running through the jungle at the right spot for the professors, ganking the lanes when he's supposed to at the right time, all of those things. Do you think either one of these guys has a jungle advantage, Crashy?
I'm not super familiar with Frankie. I've run into him a few times in ladder, and I think he definitely can hold his own. But I feel the same way for IDOC. I think IDOC is maybe has like a slight elevation in their reputation playing with the professors. But I don't really see him. Like, I don't run into him a whole lot. And so neither one of them stand out as like crazy, just the best junglers out there, right? But I do think that what they bring to their team is going to be very solid. And so it's going to come down to the team play. I don't think that we're going to see a game one out of the jungle role, although that could definitely be wrong. We'll see what kind of impact they have. We'll see what those drafts look like, and ultimately we'll see which team closes it out. I think with like you said earlier, the way that these lanes are probably like the closest in each lane in the semifinals or in the quarterfinals, it's going to come down to the team decisions and the team macro, right? One lane here is like falling behind, in my opinion, is not going to be enough for the game to be decided. I think that the rest of these lanes and the rest of these players are too good to let that kind of snowball out of control. So, whether or not one lane loses or wins their lane, or whether or not one jungler has huge impact, it's going to come down to those big team fights and those big macro decisions.
I definitely agree with you. So we have done predictions for all of our other ones. I'm going to make one for this one as well. I got to take about 15, 20 seconds to think about this. So I did say at the end of our group phase, Professors wins the whole damn thing. They're going to 2-0 Red Dojo. They're going to 2-0 Even Worse Timing. And then they're going to 3-0 Dirty Lake and the boys. I was just saying that to get on Crazy Fool's good graces. I'll take Red Dojo.
Okay. I think I'm going to go with Professors, but I do think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be some variation of a 2-1. Maybe Red Dojo going up, game one. Maybe Professors with the reverse sweep. It may be, 1-1 and then closing it out from Professors. But I think Professors are going to close this one out.
Jollster, are you with us? Oh. Okay, so it doesn't sound like you guys can hear Jollster on stream, so we don't care what he thinks. I mean, who's gonna win? We got that. You can't see it right now, but imagine a little Professor's logo underneath Crashy, which is gonna set the stage for our next guest that we are gonna bring in, who is the legendary Atomic of Red Dojo. If we could get him in with us, your choice. Hello, Atomic. Welcome in.
Hey, what up?
So Atomic, I'm going to give you this first little starting spot that I gave to Ranting Gamer as well. Do you want to just take a little bit of a second, introduce yourself, let us get to know you a little bit before we continue?
Sure. I'm the mid laner for Red Dojo. I started playing competitive games with Halo 3 back in high school. It kind of ages me a little bit. And then I got into MOBAs first with Dota 2. I pretty much started playing Dota 2 when it first came out, but not competitively, just very casually. And then I started to take competitive, go more competitive with MOBAs around 2017 when Paragon was popping, and unfortunately the game died. I started playing League and went back to Halo Infinite when it came out. Ranked top 500 in the world in Halo Infinite, but didn't go competitive. Pred came out, and I've just been playing Pred ever since.
Perfect. So I did say during the like preluding of this that back in the Paragon days when you were playing, you did get a little bit of coaching from Crazy Fool. Can you tell me what that was like to, and like what it kind of feels like to now be matched up against him in a competitive event all these years later?
I mean, I don't know if it was like formal coaching, but I did play with him a lot, and I definitely seeked advice from him. He was on Arctic Wolves, one of the top teams. I was on like a B tier team. I was playing ADC at the time. I'm actually very new to mid. I only started playing mid lane. I don't know, probably a couple months ago. But yeah, he was awesome to talk to. Learned a lot from him, and yeah, we have a nice little rivalry going between our two teams.
That's great to hear. So I do know that Red Dojo has been around for a little bit and had quite a few roster changes over its time. What sets this current roster that you guys have apart from the rosters you had in the past and gives you a better chance to advance to our semifinals?
I think what's cool about our team right now is probably the player versatility. So Bartldew, who's our offlaner, he's actually really new to the offlane role. He played a lot of ADC and then was like playing jungle for a while. He could also play mages pretty well. He comes from like Overwatch. He's like really strong Overwatch player. So he can kind of do it all. And right now he's playing off lane, but super versatile and understands a lot of different strengths and weaknesses of the different roles. Branky B as well. He's new to the Paragon genre, but he if you run into him in pubs, he can play ADC, mages, tanks, etc. So super versatile player, and he's also improving kind of like by the day. And then Peak, of course, extremely versatile. Probably the only one that's not so versatile is Natty, but that's fine because he's, in my opinion, one of the best ADCs in the game, and with the right team can probably be the best ADC in the game. So I definitely think it's our versatility.
We got to highlight this. You just said you think Natty can be the best ADC in the game with the right team. Are you guys the right team, Atomic?
I think we can be, but I think our team has gone through some roster changes, and we're still kind of establishing chemistry. I don't think any team is the best that it is at any given time. Every team is constantly improving, and it just depends on, can a team continue to improve and grow and last together. So I mean, you look at like kind of more established teams like Professors who've been playing together for, I don't know, 8 years or whatever, and meaning like they weren't like always the same exact roster, but like they know each other, they've been playing together, mutual respect. So I mean, can that team continue to grow beyond where they are today? Perhaps, but they're probably more at like the tail end of the curve. And then you have like younger teams that are just getting started together that I think have like a real opportunity to grow. And so yeah, I do think as an individual player, I would say like Natty is hands down one of the best ADCs in the game.
I'm a big fan of Natty myself, so I definitely agree with you. Just wanted to take a chance to prop him up there. Jollster, you got anything that you would like to ask Atomic?
Yeah, now that I've made it back after some internet issues, what I would like to say is, Crazy Fool's going to be available for Professors in this next one. Mr. Guru is actually going to move to solo lane. There's no roster changes for Professors. Does that really change like how you're going to play them this time around? Y'all were really successful with them last time, but does it change having Crazy Fool back in that support?
Oh, for sure. I think Survivor, I think especially in duo lane, like if there's anywhere in the game, like across the map, that the chemistry really matters, it's definitely in duo lane. And Survivor and Crazy Fool have been playing together forever. So I can imagine, like, despite how good Survivor is, and despite how good Guru is on an individual level, just introducing something so new, like a new variable into the lane, changes everything. So I definitely think their team is going to be, even if like the The overall skill doesn't change too much between like, you know, having Regal there as a sub, etc. I do think their comfort level and their chemistry is what's going to contribute to them just playing better overall. But I still think that, you know, our team, there should really be no lack of performance in comparison to the last game that we played against them, because our team is also just like improving over time as well. So
Atomic,
pretty confident we're gonna give them a good run in the next round.
not to intervene here, but how did that last game that you played against them go for you guys in our group stage? How'd that one go?
I don't even remember, but I think we did. I don't know, we swept that game. I don't remember what the score was.
You won 34-8 in kills. I remember it. Sorry, Atomic. I've gotten it out here several times. I'm going to say it again. I'm a big Red Dojo fan. I believe in you guys really strong, Atomic. I do think that you guys make it through this first round matchup. I think even worse timing may be a tough match for you guys, but say you're able to get through them. What team from the other side of the bracket are you looking forward to playing? Whether it be Rogue, Double Vision, Orca Spot, or Dirty Lake and the boys.
I mean, look, any team that makes it to the finals, and if we're there, it means that they've proven themselves just as well as we have. We thrive on challenges, so facing the team with, you know, the most distinct strategy and style would be exciting for us. It's my guess is probably going to be D-Lab. We've played them a lot in scrims, and we played them, you know, competitively, and I think they're probably the strongest team on the other side. But you know, we'd be excited to play anybody.
Cool. That is great to hear. Crash, you got anything that you would like to ask Atomic before we let him run off for the day too?
No, looking forward to watching it. I think that's probably going to be like what could be a caliber, or like a finals caliber matchup. It's going to be a fun one to watch. Definitely, like we said, the closest of the quarterfinals. So that's going to be a fun one.
Wonderful.
And the first one we're watching, yeah.
Yeah, that will be the first one that we see. Everybody, as you're tuning in at that 11 o'clock Eastern time, tune in right then. See Red Dojo take on Professors. We do want to thank Atomic a lot for sacrificing his solo queue games to come in here and play with us. He is trying to get better, trying to prepare to be ready to take on the juggernaut that is Professors. Took about an hour and a half out of his day, so big round of applause in the chat for Atomic. But at this point, you are free to go, Atomic. I thank you very much for being here. And actually, no. I didn't do what I did with ranting really quick, so I'm sorry for fooling everybody here and tricking you. But Atomic, I want to give you 15, 20 seconds to plug anything that you want to plug, promote your stream, anything that you're doing. So go ahead and take it away, Atomic.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God, there's some construction that just started outside. I can't even hear myself.
Perfect timing.
But yeah, I do stream sometimes. I'm not like very big on content, so go to Crashy's stream and give him a follow.
God dang it. That's so stupid.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming by, Atomic. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, likewise.
Perfect. So that is going to be all of the interviews that we have for you guys today. All of the matchups have been previewed as well. I do want to just say I did just link Atomic's Twitch down in the chat. Make sure you go click on that. Give him a little bit of a follow button. He's got the best comms on Twitch. It is a riot being in there. I also get a lot of inside information on, you know, who's playing what scrims are happening, who's in an advantage and who is not. Before we wrap it up for the day, though, I want to just thank everybody for tuning in, especially Ranting and Atomic for giving up a little bit of their Saturday morning / afternoon to come in here, give you guys a little bit of extra content. I want to thank all of you guys for watching and tuning in. You could have been doing a lot of other things today. The passion that this community has for its comp scene and for its game in general is unrivaled, in my opinion. I think that that is a massive part of why this game is going to end up being a success. It's all of you guys tuning in today, watching. It's all of the players that are helping us with these events. I'm going to give Jollster another couple of seconds to say something that he wants to say, if he wants to say anything at all. Jollster, take it away.
Yeah. I mean, you covered most of it. You make sure you follow us on Twitter. We do also put stuff out on there, and also all of these VODs from the games to what we do here, always on YouTube. Choice, once again, Tedium and all the others do a really good job of making sure that stays up to date. And also just to sneak my pick back into there, I think Professors take it 2-0. So that's it for me, though.
All right, Crashy, I'm gonna give you a second as well if you want to say goodbye, hello to anybody. I am really quick before I throw it to Crashy. I am gonna link his Twitter in the Twitch chat. Make sure you go over there,
Nice.
give him a follow as well. He definitely deserves it. But Crashy, you got the mic.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to more PCC. It's one of my favorite things about Pred. Probably my only favorite thing about Pred right now. Still keen on the future of the game. Going to be hanging around a little bit, kind of taking a little bit of a step back, but might be looking to cast some games in the future. So we'll see about that. But all these teams, all these players putting in the work that I have not been doing over the last few months. So really excited for it. Check out Twitter. I make YouTube videos and stuff. So come hang out with me and listen to my beautiful ranting about any particular topic. Because who knows, dude? I'll just pick something I'm upset about and I'll just complain. So that's my thing. So
yeah, it makes sense. It's gotten so bad. People even AFK on the same stream as you. So it's
yeah, it's a good time. It's a good time. So looking forward to it. Thanks for everybody for watching. And we'll have a good time next weekend.
Perfect. So once again, make sure that you have pushed that follow button for you down below here. Use those Prime subs if you have, as they are free to you. You're already paying for it anyways. Might as well give it to the predecessor scene so we can thrive off of it. We will see you actually, before we say that, make sure you follow us on Twitter, YouTube, all of the different things. Join our Discord. Come over here. Give us your feedback. We're always willing to listen. My DMs are open. You can say anything you want to me anytime you want. Slide right in there. Give me some feedback. Say, hey, Lance, you fucking suck. We don't want anything to do with you. Oh, sorry, gamer words. Say, Lance, you suck. Get off camera. Say anything you want to me. Come at me. Give me some feedback, positive or negative. Anybody on the team is welcome to that as well. But we want to thank you guys for joining us today, and we will see you in 1 week.